Hello and welcome to Real Estate and the Adventures of Parenthood. And today I have Matt Lebris.
Cindy, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm super excited to be here with you.
And I am excited to have you on my podcast. So, Matt, I have so many questions on your amazing podcast. You have tell me a little bit more about your podcast because it's called Decoding Success.
Decoding Success. Yeah, we've been doing it since December of 2018. It's been one hell of a ride. At the time, I was being urged at the time by a former intern of mine while I was working with Damon John from Shark Tank to start a podcast. And I'm like, dude, like, when the hell would I have time to do a podcast? And the time came about, and I said, all right, well, let's do it. And it's funny. I think the universe, the world, God, whatever you want to choose to believe in, I think we get guided in such a mysterious way. And I was guided to something that I felt super passionate about, which is this show. And at the time before that, I got to admit, I felt like I was in a state of being passionless. But ultimately, I was guided to this show, and we've been able to have over 270 plus conversations with truly incredible individuals from every walk of life you can imagine, all around decoding their success, decoding their mindset, understanding how they got to define success in the manner in which they do. But it's been powerful, to say the least. And I'm excited to share what I've learned from all of those conversations here with you and your audience, Cindy.
That's amazing. I mean, you talk about like universe, the law of attraction. You're talking my language here because I believe that mindset and the way that you actually have your energy, like if you have a positive energy, that's what you're going to bring. If you wake up grumpy in the morning, it's like, you know what type of day you're going to have. So it's like, what was
Mm.
like the mindset or how like when you started this whole thing was like what was the mindset that guided you or led you to that?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the mindset at first when I started the show was very ego based. It was very, very ego based. I cared a lot about how I was viewed by other people. I was coming off of working with one of the sharks from Shark Tank, Damon John, and people looked at me a certain way because I had that role, and I wanted to continue that after. So the podcast gave me the ability to do so. And I'm, being very transparent here. Like, I was guided by my ego. And I'm not going to say it was the worst thing in the world, but the ego was in the driver's seat at that point. And it led me to want to be seen. Right? That's what it was. It led me to want to be seen. I wanted attention. I didn't know how to give myself the attention. I didn't know how to give myself the love. So at first, it was very, very ego driven. But as I was able to start working on myself, to start peeling back the layers of who Matt Lebris is, to be able to turn inward and really dive deep into the pain that I was carrying around for years, I was able to realize, like, okay, cool, let's transition now. Like, you have this podcast, let's get really curious. And that's the mindset that I currently embody when I host my show. It's all about bringing the utmost curiosity to each and every episode that we're recording. And that looks like asking questions with, obviously, with respect, but even if it's like the most potentially common question, like, I want to get deep on that. Like, give me the surface level, but then let's uncover that. So I just have a mindset of being a student of life, being a sponge, absorbing the information around me, and wanting to be squeezed each and every episode to share that with the world. And it's a pretty cool transition talking with you about it right now, because that happened over the course of like 4+ years. In the beginning, like I said, the ego was in the driver's seat, but then the transition happened. And now it's just being a student of life and being ultra curious.
That I mean, I love that because it's just like you talk about healing, and that's something that
Mm,
I focus with people when I talk about like, hey, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? And it's just like, have you done the work? Are you, what are you actually hurting? And you talked about
mm,
ego too, but then again, it's just like what did you do in order to get yourself there? Yes, healing, but what type of healing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I found myself in June of 2020. So during the year of the pandemic, I was dating a woman, a really incredible woman, still love her to this day, but I was being hurt day in and day out. And I was allowing myself to be hurt, right? There's no judgment here in regards to the actions of said other individual, but I had to realize that I needed to hold myself accountable, right? I was the person that was putting myself in the position to continuously show up and be disappointed, continuously show up and be neglected, continuously show up and be rejected. And the answer was why. So in June of 2020, I just felt sick of it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not just going to break up with my partner. Let me explore this. And I put myself in cognitive behavioral therapy. That was my first form of quote unquote healing, was to start exploring myself, right? At the time, I think I was like 26 or 27. So at 26 or 27, I was literally carrying all the baggage from those years, right? And as a male, I'm sure it's still stereotyped to this day, although society is shifting in regards to going to therapy and whatnot. But I started to uncover how the relationship with my mother from childhood to adulthood really impacted how I viewed love, my relationship with my father, the big T and little t traumas that I had encountered, which we all have, right? Just those overwhelming life experiences, if people choose not to use the word trauma. Like I had a lot of those, and they were just never unpacked. They were never processed because I was always in a mode of, okay, this happened to you, get back up and go, get back up and go, get back up and go. And truthfully, it kind of blew up in my face. So therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, was really the start. And then I started to dabble with other things, right? Hiring a coach. I started to dabble with flotation therapy and I'm actually doing flotation therapy today, a little later in the evening. Like things like that really, really helped me turn inward and start to find out who I truly am at my core.
Okay, and that, like, a lot of people don't know how to find themselves. A lot of people don't know who they are. And they can have 40, 50 years, but they have all this trauma, but they're scared of saying, I need help, or how do I even start? And I went through something
Mm,
like that. I've been divorced twice. And my second divorce actually affected me greatly. So that's when I had a way of like, okay, so if I'm attracted, because I'm a giver, but I kept on attracting the same type of men. In this case, I did everything as possible for me to save my marriage, but I wasn't able to. So then now that I saw that, I saw myself by myself as a single mom, and I'm like, how do I move forward? And
mm,
I did hire a therapist, but then I read I read different books. Like I started getting into hypnotherapy, past life regressions. I did psychedelics, like experience not experimenting, but finding like those deep wounds I wanted to be healed, because the relationship between my mom, my dad, and me was not good. I grew up in a um, domestic domestic violence home. So it's like psychologically and
mm,
emotionally abusive. But then how did I went ahead and find myself into happiness? And it was like by hiring a coach. It's like past life, like traumas. Like, do I really want to deal with that, or how to do the work and accepting yourself in order to grow? And that's what a lot of people are going through, because they think that, like in this case, and I mean, you, like, I admire you very much because you decided not to fit and ended up with your partner, but you decided to work on yourself in order to have a healthier relationship, not for yourself only, but because of the relationship between both of you. And a lot of people just decide to make it just to walk away. And it's just like partners are made, and sometimes people are focused on, oh wait, you know what, just take the easy route. In this case, you decided to do the work, and you keep on working
mm.
on yourself to become the best version of yourself. So that is amazing. And I admire you because that's like many men are afraid to speak up with that. What would
Yeah,
you
I appreciate the kudos there.
go ahead?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I appreciate the kudos. I agree with you. I think there are still to this day many men in my life, and even women, that just choose not to turn inward. And I'm going to be honest. One question that I often ask is, do you think everyone is meant to work on themselves? Do you think everyone is meant to heal? Do you think? And I really try not to use the word heal, although I have used it in when asking this question. And honestly, I think everyone has the capacity to do so, but I don't think everyone is meant to actually pursue that. Uh, you know, it's just the reality of life. Like, imagine if I wish the world would be like this, where everyone took care of what's inside of them. Like we would all be walking around waving. I'm in New York City. No one waves at one another. Like my neighbors don't
Hi.
even wave at me. Like it's like it's maybe down south by you in Atlanta is a little different. I know when I was in Virginia visiting family, all the time people are waving, but like here it's like it's so gritty, it's so tough, and there's like a lack of love, a lack of community. But what I'm getting at is I agree with you. I think things are shifting, though. I think things are shifting in society where there are conversations just like this one being had where men could now feel comfortable and be like, you know what? If this guy's talking about it, or this girl's talking about it, or this person's talking about it, why don't I explore it? Right? If it's giving them the results they're trying to seek out in life, like, hey, like let me give it a shot. And hopefully this influences just one person, maybe more than one, but ultimately that's the goal. Just make an impact through these words.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like if you dig deeper, it's just like now with social media, people are saying, "Wait, this person is going through that. I'm going through this. Wait, we have
Mm.
similar situations. So how can I improve?" Or let's say, for instance, people live in a dream and they think that they cannot accomplish their dreams, right? They think that their dreams are way too big, but it's the road to either you want to take the risk because life is too short to miss out on opportunities, or you just sit back and just sit there and just watch everybody else do your dreams or
Mm.
live through your, you know, the experiences that you would love to have, but you think that you cannot do that.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully, anyone that does see this, like they realize that it is possible for them too. You know, I think for years I was envious, and this is like in my late teens and early 20s. Like I was envious of people finding the peace for themselves or finding the joy for themselves, and I was like, what are you, faking it? Like I always felt like it was almost impossible for me, until I mean I had to hit a breaking point. And I really really don't want anyone to hit breaking points, but sometimes we have to. I'm a stubborn New Yorker. Like I'm hard headed, of course. Like I would be the person to hit a breaking point. But at the end of the day, like that was my path, and I wouldn't necessarily change anything about it. Like I embrace it and I'm grateful for it now that I'm out of those moments. Although I definitely have more of the ups and downs to come. But it is possible for anyone. It is. It truly, truly is. We all have the capabilities, and I think it's important to realize, like, hey, like what you see someone else achieving, it might not look exactly the same for you, which is okay, because that we're all different. One of the greatest doctors in the world had said it: there's no one in the world youer than you. That was Dr. Seuss. And it's important to realize, like, what you see someone else doing is possible for you as well. It just might not look exactly the same, and we have to embrace that.
And that is true. It's just like not every like okay, so the road to success is not easy. It is not easy at all. There's always going to be ups and downs, but it's, do you have the will and do you have what it takes to get there? And
Mm,
how bad do you want it?
right. No, I agree. The thing is with success, and this is probably the primary reason the podcast was started. Success needs to be defined by you before you can start to pursue it, right? And I think we get conditioned in three different ways that lead us to start pursuing success that isn't aligned with who we truly are, right? We get conditioned through what we see, what we hear, and what we experience. That's how we get programmed. It starts from our parents, then it goes to our teachers, then it goes to the people that are in our school and around us. And we start to develop this idea of what success is, and we start to pursue it, and then we wonder why we feel so unfulfilled. Well, it's because we're in pursuit of something that we didn't craft. It's in pursuit of something that we don't necessarily care about, but have this belief that it was us that created it, or it was us that wants it. No, it wasn't. It was the people around you. So when it comes to success, I like to say this, we have to define it for ourselves. It doesn't go off of what Merriam-Webster's dictionary tells you success is. That's why it's so important to turn inward. It's so important to turn inward so that you can identify what success is for yourself at your core. Furthermore, I will say that it's also important to embrace seasons of not knowing what success means, because we can be like, if you ask me what success is, like, I can give you the sexiest answer in the world, but is that truly what I define success as? So when it comes to pursuing success, achieving success, ultimately you have to know how you define it before any of that.
So when you talk about decoding success, yes, and people have so many perceptions about success. Success is just like making millions and millions of money, or dollars, and or having so many luxury things. But what is really success? And this is like, I remember when I was younger, it was like, oh, you know what? I want to become a billionaire. I want to make all this money. But you can have all the money in the world. Is that really making you happy?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think, again, just from experience, I could say that sometimes in life, we have to test the waters before we could believe the temperature of them. So, for example, if you're like, hey, Matt, this water's really cold. It's like 30 degrees right now. It's like a cold plunge. Like, you might not want to get in it. And, being the hard headed New Yorker that I've, mentioned that I am, the stubborn New Yorker, I'm going to be like, you know what, Cindy? Like, it's water. I love water. I'm jumping in until I realize it's so cold and I hate cold water, right? What I'm getting at here is I think sometimes we have to try it for ourselves to actually believe it. So when it comes down to defining success from a monetary perspective or defining success from whatever perspective it may be, I think oftentimes we'll find ourselves in pursuit of that to come to the realization of for ourselves that, hey, money isn't going to solve everything. Money isn't going to make me happy. Money isn't going to heal my pain. Money isn't going to do this for me. And that's something I had to experience in my early 20s, late teens. I said to myself, you know what? All of the experiences I had in my life, whether it be watching my parents get divorced, getting kicked out of 2 high schools, failing out of college, getting arrested, this, that, and the other, I thought just making a lot of money was going to fix all of that. And to an extent, I would actually say that I was happier when I had all of that money coming in as if I didn't, but it didn't heal what I needed to be healed. It didn't fix anything for me. In fact, it actually, kind of derailed me, and it fed the ego, which is what we talked about earlier. So I think, some people just need to figure it out for themselves in regards to trying it and realizing like, hey, I don't like this. It's like trying chicken parmesan for the first time and finding out you love it or you don't, right? You got to test the waters.
I mean, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I do like chicken parmesan, but I'd rather go with eggplant parmesan. I'm sorry. Have you tried eggplant parmesan?
Of
It doesn't
course I
work.
have. Of course. I love it.
But I mean, it's just like the other day, like I've seen, like, I work with a lot of people that have a lot of money. And the other day I was talking to a social media influencer, and she's like, you know what, Cindy? I'm in Bali right now, and I'm going back to Los Angeles and selling everything I have, because since I've been here, my whole perspective has changed. There's no need for me to have designer clothes. There's no need for me to have, Cartier jewelry or whatever it is. It's more to have that peace of mind is my success than just having all these material things, because sometimes we focus on the material things, but what is that really going to do for us in the long run? It's just like, you can lose everything materialistic, but at the end of the day, who's there for you?
Yeah, I think, again, from experience, material items can feed our worth if our worth is outside of us, and that's what I lived for years upon years. And I'm still transitioning out of that. I think a lot of people, well, first and foremost, let's actually backtrack, right? When material items come into play, I believe that there is a sense of wanting to be a part of community, which is primal. Like we want to fit in, we want to be a part of something. So on that note, if you buy, let's say, a Rolex, or you buy a certain car, you now find yourself, in your mind at least, in a certain tier or in a certain community, which gives you a perceived value, right? And if you're identifying your value or seeing your value outside of you, like literally outside of you, then those things feed us in that way. But I agree, like at the end of the day, it's just clothing. It's just a watch. It's just, and these are nice to haves, right? I don't want anyone to think that I'm against them, because I love these things too. But why? I think here's a really big thing. Why do you love them? What is your intention for buying said item? You need to move with deliberate intention in life. And when it comes down to, purchasing something from a material perspective, okay, like what's my intention for this? And I think that's something that people should practice, including myself. Like when you're going to make that purchase, why are you making that purchase?
And then make sure that it actually, the price goes up. It gains value too with time. For instance, if you have a Rolex, that gains value with time.
Sure, that's an
Hey, just look at it as
investment.
an
Yeah.
investment. Um, and it's just like, I remember it. So when so back in 2011, I lost everything to a flood. And it was like, I
Mm.
want this, I want that. And I saw myself houseless, like in a lot of debt. I was debt free. And then all of a sudden, like, great, now I have to remodel this whole house. I mean, and it was like, what does material things mean to me nowadays? I can have everything, but at the same time, it's just like, my worth is not material things. It's my family. It's the experiences and the memories that I have with them and that I can make, because nobody can ever take those memories away. And I'm not saying, hey, you know what, don't go ahead and buy a house or don't go buy a clothes, or no, no, no. I'm just saying that for me, that's more like, that's better for me. That's more feeling like I like, for I know that for Christmas, for example, with my kids, I either ask them, do you guys want Christmas presents or would you guys rather have trips?
Mm.
What is better for them? And they love the trips, because it's just like, hey, when are we going here? When are we going there? So they can talk about that for forever versus something materialistic
That,
or
yeah, that's cool. I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call.
that's
Emergency
fine.
contact. I'm gonna have to just say, no, I love that you do that with them. Like I think that's really awesome. I I wish I had that option, and I'm very grateful. I went on numerous trips with my family, but I really appreciate that you do that with the little ones, because first of all, you grow so much when you are traveling, right? Like you're experiencing new culture, you're experiencing ways of life outside of what you see on a daily basis, and I think you're setting them up for like something so incredible by bringing them these experiences. And furthermore, I think it's just outside of the box. Like it's again, it goes back to community, right? Like when I was little, I remember this so vividly. I wanted every video game system my friends had. But why did I want it? I didn't want to feel left out, right? It's really interesting that you do that, and I'm going to give you kudos as a mom for for bringing that about. That's so awesome.
Thank you. I mean, it's just like for me, when I was little, I remember that. my dad, you're gonna laugh at this. So for Christmas, I always found ways of wanting to make money. And I remember one Christmas, he got me a sheep. It was a couple of like a male and a female. And one of them was pregnant. And he's like, well, you can have so many sheep and you can actually sell them.
Mm.
So me being part of a Hispanic family, they ate it for we had the sheeps, but they kind of disappeared into the freezer. So I mean, it was like memories like that. But I always wanted to travel. My family had the opportunity to travel all the time, but I didn't have those experiences with my parents. I always had like my grandmother or my aunt, and I remember that one time. I didn't tell this to my mom. So my grandmother and I, we went to Florida, and I'm like, let's go to Alaska, and we went ahead and we went to Alaska.
Mm.
But those are trips that
That's awesome.
I remember because we had to stay over. There was like a horrible snowstorm in O'Hare Airport or in Chicago, and we had to stay overnight. But then we
Yep.
got to Alaska 2 days later, which was fantastic. Until this day, I still remember that. So it's the memories you create. But I mean,
That's
success can
so
be defined
awesome.
in so
How
many
was
ways,
Alaska?
and it's just like it starts with school. Like you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. They they put us in our they instill in our brain like, oh, you got to get a job, you got to become a professional. But what is really a profession? I mean, yes, you can become a doctor, you can become a lawyer,
Hey, Cindy, you there?
but
I
then
think your audio
again,
cut out.
do you want to go to college? Is college necessary? I think you're frozen, Matt. Oh, Matt is frozen. Ah, Matt. Oh, there you are.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, I was like,
I
Matt.
lost you.
All right, I added a marker there. Okay, so I was saying that that in high school they instill in our brains like, oh, you got to go to college, you got to get a 9 to 5 job, but they never teach us in becoming an entrepreneur that it's okay
Mm.
to be self-employed. And that's the thing. It's just like, how do we have that freedom, but at the same time growing and becoming the best version of ourselves?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I don't think everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur, right? I think for years it's become like this sexy thing to pursue, but I'm potentially one of them. I think it's really important to realize the amount of pressure that you're under as an entrepreneur, right? Whether you're in real estate, whether you own, some sort of business, construction business, this, that, the other, right? No matter what it is, I think it's really important to realize the amount of pressure you put on yourself to be able to provide for yourself, your family, those around you, your employees, so on and so forth. And with all of that being said, if you're not aware of the pressure, then you're exposing yourself to mental health, a lot of mental health or potential troubles with mental health, I should say. So, yes, while I do agree that it's not taught to us, I just wanted to make sure that I'm saying, like, I don't think it's for everyone. On that note, I think what you do with your kids and bringing them on in these experiences allows them to see the possibilities of what life holds, right? So, for example, like, while school's not teaching us, like, hey, like, you can be an entrepreneur, like, you can open a business, you could do this, those experiences in life do teach us that. And I think that's why we have to, and as a kid, we don't realize this, but like, there are so many teachers around us. There are so many influences around us, and proximity is power. So, ensuring that we're surrounded by people that are exposing us to new ideas, to new ways of living, to exposing us to, ways of bettering ourselves, whether that be health, whether that be finance, whether that be business, career, relationships, etc. Like, that is the goal. I think a lot of growing comes outside of the classroom, and it comes from our parents, it comes from our friends, it comes from our mentors, and everything in between. So again, just those experiences, like what you're doing with your kids, is going to expose them to what's possible for them, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you, appreciate it. No, I still can remember like whenever I take my son, like on our last international trip, I took them to Santorini, France, and Amsterdam. Okay, so Amsterdam, I learned my lesson. I shouldn't take, back then there were 5 and 7. I shouldn't take a 5 and 7 year old to Amsterdam, especially downtown. But when we went to Santorini, my son is like, Mom, we should come here more often. I like this place. And I'm like, excuse me,
Mm.
child? But it was like the food. He loved the food. He loved the experience. And I mean, they love it, and it's just like, for me, it's so important, the different cultures that they go through, and they expose the different type of foods. Like during the whole summer, I send them to Puerto Rico with my parents, because they know the culture, they know the food, they know the experience, they know, like, hey, you know what, this is a totally different world. We have the beach there, the island, yeah, fresh food all the time,
That's
and it's
that's so awesome. I'm glad that you took them to Europe too. Like that's so incredible.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, no, I mean, success in being an entrepreneur, and I agree with you. And entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's like yesterday I was talking to someone, and she's all like, she needs to be told what to do. And some people are leaders, and some people are followers. And not entrepreneurship can be up and down completely.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. You know, and just to throw this in there, like you can be successful without being a quote unquote entrepreneur. I think that word gets thrown around rather often, but the way I define entrepreneurship is someone that's creating something that doesn't exist, right? I think entrepreneur, it became like this sexy thing to put in your Instagram bio when truth be told, like I think there's a really big difference between being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. Two totally different things. And listen, I'm not here to critique anyone's choices, but at the end of the day, you do not need to be an entrepreneur or a business owner to be successful. You just need to know how you're defining success, right? That was the start of becoming successful, knowing how you at your core define it. So that's the best place to start.
Yes, and it's just like, and you're right about the business owner and entrepreneurship. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be successful. You don't have to be a business owner to be successful. It's
Mm.
going to come down to, what are you really passionate about? Because if you're not passionate about something, then how are you going to make money?
Mm. I agree. Yeah, I think, well, here's the thing. You know, I mentioned, because there might be people out there that might feel like they don't have any passion. And I was in that position for years, but I want to share this. Like, this kind of came to me the other day when I was watching an interview with two gentlemen. And one of the gentlemen said, you know what, like I felt like I was passionless, which I very much so resonated with. But he said, you know what I did have? I had pain. And I think it's really important for anyone that's listening to this right now. If you find yourself in a position of being passionless, you need to search for what it is that you actually do have within you. So that might be pain, that might be curiosity, that might be an interest. It could be anything. Like you need to search for what you have inside of you and you have to use that because there's no way you have nothing within you. Like you have something, and that something can birth into your success in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, passion's a funny thing, but you know, once you find what it is that you do truly love, whether it be a person, whether it be a project, whether it be whatever, like you are so lit up. And, you know, that fire might die, it might never die, but ride it out and stay near that fire as long as you can, as long as it's there.
Now that you bring pain, that's how I actually wrote my book, because I was in so
Mm,
much pain. I was going through a divorce. I was going through a breakup. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tell everybody that you can actually become successful. It doesn't matter, because there's this misconception, huge misconception, that single moms cannot travel, according to my ex-boyfriend.
mm,
But single moms cannot be successful. Single moms cannot, um, you know, that they're held back because of kids. That's not true. So my goal with this was trying to change everybody's perspective, especially women or parent or not only women but men or people that are going through divorces. They can achieve anything they want. It's just like they just have to move forward because their motivation, they have a bigger motivation and it's taking care of their kids, yes, but they cannot lose themselves along the process.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's important. I think, well, especially as, and I can't speak from experience in this regard, and you would definitely be able to speak better because you are a mother, you are a female. I think that's very natural for women to put themselves not necessarily last, but others before them. So I'm curious in regards to the topic of losing yourself, how do you ensure, and I'm asking you this question, like, how do you ensure that you're not losing yourself in pursuit of all that you do with the people that you have in your life? I know that you were married, as you mentioned. You mentioned other relationships. Obviously, you have little ones, you have family. Like, how do you ensure that you're keeping your glass full?
I take care of myself. That means I get my hair done, I get my nails done. I go to the gym every day because that's really important. That's the way I release stress. Because if I don't, then how the heck am I going to release stress, especially with two little ones, or they're kind of
Yeah.
preteens, let's put it that way. But that's one of the reasons, what, I have a nanny that helps me with my kids. But at the same time, I'm there for my kids all the time. But it's important for me to take trips on my own. That means I go to different
Mm.
events, I get all glamored, but it's remembering that it's okay to have my kids, to leave them with my parents, or to leave them for a few days with with an adult, with their grandparents. It's okay to be, to have them spend time with their friends. And it's not all about the kids, because once the kids leave their home, then you're empty handed, and then you're going to have to start discovering yourself. So I
Mm.
last year I started I they were in with my parents in Puerto Rico, and I'm like, you know what, I've always wanted to fly a plane. I'm going to take flying lessons. I went ahead and did that. Then before my birthday, I'm like, I'm going to jump off a plane today, and I went ahead and did that. And I love jumping off a plane. It scares me sometimes, but I do it. I do it because, I mean, the scenery is amazing. So if you haven't jumped off a plane, you need to go skydiving. And it's just like everything. You can just check out my YouTube channel. But it's just like you cannot stop living your life because you're just a mom or you're a dad. There's
Mm.
opportunities out there, and life is too short to miss out. Because what are you actually teaching your kids? You know, Are you teaching them that, oh, you know what, it's going to be all about us? And then what's going to happen? You're teaching your kids that it's all about them. But then again, when they leave to college, then are you really taking care of yourself? Are you taking a massage? It's just like the other day, I
Mm.
was really sick, and my kids were like, Mommy, you're really sick. I'm like, yeah, I'm sick. Mommy gets to be sick, and I went to sleep. But that's a human in me, and it's just like teaching them, like, okay, you know what? Mommy does things that they love. Like my son was telling me this morning, Mommy, I love playing tennis. I'm like, are you going to teach Mommy to play tennis? Let's go play tennis. I have no idea how to play tennis. All I know is like a tennis ball and a racket. That's it. But it's putting myself and making sure that they put themselves first too, because when they come into a relationship, and this is patterns learned, because if I'm putting myself completely towards my kids, and I come into a relationship in the future, do you think I want to lose myself again? No, I don't.
Mm.
Because I get my time, they get their time, and it's okay to give them space. You see where I'm coming from?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally respect it and I admire it. I think it's important to be able to detach, right? And that's what it sounds like you're able to do, and that's a very powerful place to be. So, all the power to you. That's awesome.
Now that you mention attached, it's just like we're talking about attachments. So if we talk about attachments, what is a
Mm.
healthy relationship? And you see the avoidance attachment. I can't remember the other ones, but I am a securely attached. So that means, hey, I like MySpace, but it's gotten me a long time to get there because I enjoy going on my trips. Yes, you know what? Last year I went to Iceland for 10 days. Like, hey, I'm going to Iceland. I mean, not many people may agree to this, but I'm living my life. I want to travel the world. And yes, my kids are in school, but when they're not in school, I go ahead and do the same thing with them. So I'm enjoying life and I'm
Mm.
teaching them that it's okay to enjoy life too. Because life is too short. You never know
Yeah,
what's
it's
going to
important.
happen.
Absolutely. And what you're doing, I think, is powerful because you're modeling, right? And that's one of the ways that we get programmed or conditioned is through modeling, right? To see what the people around us do. And if you are constantly living your life, you are taking care of yourself by going to the gym, you're taking care of your appearance, you're doing these things that could be a really, really big positive impact on them. Like that's so awesome.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's just like you're see, you're creating a little company. So I'm the CEO of my company, and then I have two employees, which are my kids, right? So
Mm,
they're gonna look up to me because the employees always look up to the CEO. I'm the CEO. So they're gonna want to do in order for to become me in the future, they're gonna want to do what I do. I know
yeah.
it's a weird way of
Yeah.
seeing things. Different perspective actually.
No, no, no. It makes a lot of sense. I totally get it, and I appreciate that perspective.
So and that's why I put myself first because I saw my mom growing up. I saw my mom. She gave her life completely to us. And then after we left, she
Mm,
was like, I don't have any friends. I don't have any hobbies. I mean, she reads all the time, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't have a social life. She's not adventurous, you know? And it's just like there was
right.
always that fear that holding her back. Like I took my kids zip lining, and that was a total different argument with her because she was afraid, oh my gosh, there's something that might happen. Like, no, there's just woods. I mean, if we fall, I mean, we have insurance. It's not going to happen. But it's just like you open your perspective to other things. But if you live in that fear and you live yourself in just dedication into one thing, how are you going to broaden your experience? How is your world going to change? How are you going to grow?
Mm,
Because not only growing um, mentally, but it's also changing things in totally different perspective.
yeah, I definitely get it. You're doing great. I love to hear all of this.
So yeah, but that's my whole thing with that. So I really love, like, I'm going to listen to your podcast, Decoding Success, and I'm looking forward to learning more because I know you had Mel Robbins there, you had Ryan Sharon, you had Danny Morell. I love Danny Morell, and then you've had other people there, which is amazing. I like the whole thing that you also have, like, it's the universe and law of attraction, and that for me is very very important.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. Ultimately, like I said earlier, it really just comes down to a really strong, yeah, just like a really strong passion for curiosity, and that leads to the conversations that we have, and we have a lot of fun with it. So I would love for you to check it out.
I definitely will. And you know what? For anybody that's hearing, there's no wrong question and just ask a question. Even if you're curious, because you never know if you're going to see that person again or not. And anyways, what do you have to lose with this? Think about that.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely, I agree. There's never a wrong question.
not at all. And you know what? Curiosity kills the cat, but no, not really. I mean, curiosity actually opens you to a world of different opportunities. Like, I remember a couple years ago, I walked to a CEO and I'm like, so I know that you're going to Atlanta, and I know that you have a private jet. Can I go? And he looked at me like, yeah. I'm
Mm,
like, I'm like, but I told both of my friends, I'm like, hey, you guys are coming with me. So I mean, it's just like it's just asking questions, just being curious and not being afraid. And sometimes we are afraid of asking those questions or approaching those people that at the end of the day, they're just people. They're not going to do anything to us.
right, exactly, exactly.
Thank you very much, Matt, for coming on.
Cindy, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you.